Well, hello everybody and welcome back into the Yard and Gardens on this beautiful Friday morning in early May when I am pleased to share that my garden is finally waking up for the year. Feels like a miracle at this point after the winter that we have had. Cheeky squirrel, right? There's hecklers. I have to deal with Muppet style hecklers when I'm trying to do my videos. It's wind or it's hecklers. Whatever. Anywho, the garden is starting to wake up, as the squirrels are happily telling you. So let's take a look around and see what I'm so excited about. One of my favorite sights in early spring, this polar jewel honeyberry. It's kind of always the first to let me know what's going on. And I can only see glare on my camera screen here, so hopefully this is coming up nicely. But the little green flecks that you can see, in a couple of weeks, if even that long, those are going to be opening up into beautiful white flowers, forming the beginning of my berries. Whereas those more purplish bits, are the leaves, they kind of form at the same time on this particular bush, much like its shorter relative up there, the haskapberry. Smaller bush, bigger berries, whatever. Anyway, these guys, some of my favorites because they're the first to throw flowers, they're the first to feed the bees, and let's face it, they're the first to start giving me fruit. And of course, being perennial, I don't have to do anything for them. I don't have to fight the aphid wars. I don't have to plant these early. I bought it once. I've planted it like 5 times because we've moved and moved it and moved it. But over the last few years, it's settled in. And look at this. It's fabulous. Another wonderful sign of life in early spring, we've got the gooseberries. We're in the swale garden at the moment that I have whole lot of extra straw on, doing an experiment there, but pretty much all of the gooseberry cuttings that I put in here, with the exception of the one that was supposed to be dead center, seem to have survived. So that is, I don't know, 12, 13 more little gooseberry plants, again, starting to get green well before I can put anything outside as far as annuals. So they're photosynthesizing, sinking those carbons and sugars into the soil, starting to feed the soil biology. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Recently cleaned out the fire pit and put some ashes and charcoal around. I'm really excited to see what this swale looks like in a few years when, panning over, all those little bushes are looking like this bush here, just kind of in the shade at the moment. This is not necessarily the best time to showcase this particular plant, but this beauty is like 5 or 6 years old. Well, she's at least 6 years old because we brought her from BC, and this is where I got all my cuttings that you just saw in the swale garden. I think I got some 17 or 18 rooted cuttings last year, and I'm already starting this year. Actually, I started this in the fall. I'm going to give it another month or so before we check it. But all I did here was, before we got our first freezing snows, I took a couple of the branches, plunked them down, threw a heavy rock on it, and my hope is that the contact with the soil in the spring will cause it to root, and I can just snip it free, have a couple more gooseberries. Not like I really need them, but, you know, never hurts to have more fruit around the house. So that's kind of wonderful in my opinion. Hopefully that works. I tried something similar with the polar jewel honeyberry. You may have noticed the label rock on top of a branch there, so we'll see how that works out. Brief visit with the girls since we're over by the chicken coop. Oh yeah, that's right. Because over here we've got the Smoky Saskatoon. Again, this is one of the ones we brought with us from BC. Planted it a few times. It lived in a bucket for a couple of years, but now it's doing all right. And its top here is probably, I don't know, about 8 feet. Last year we got a couple of berries off of it, so this year, hoping for a lot more. Just gonna have to see what comes of it. And actually back there, you can really hardly see it in the mess. We got those twigs looking there. Those are my beaked hazels. Those ones definitely survived the winter. It looks like some of the ones in the neglect garden did as well. Let's go check that out next. So here we have another one of the beaked hazel transplants that I got from our local woodlands here. I mean, it's not the best idea to be grabbing wild beaked hazel, because I mean, these are not big hazelnuts, okay? But the whole point and purpose of this was to have the natural ones. So, got a slightly longer catkin on that one, eh? It's not looking too bad. It's not looking too bad. And my test, did it survive the winter? We've got some flecks here. That looks pretty good to me. We've got another one over here. I grabbed quite a few of these. And we can see the catkins fairly intact. Lots of flecks. I'm thinking we'll see leaves on that shortly. So that is fantastic news. I have no idea how the few raspberries that are still in here have survived the winter, but I am most amused by these Saskatoon twigs, because these are some of the only transplants that have survived from underneath the two Saskatoons out front, and we really just kind of rudely shoved these into the ground. But there we've got the beginning of my leaf buds on there, so that is going to live. Fantastic. Turning around in the neglect corner, we spin to the perennial onion patch. We're going to talk about this in an upcoming video, but even these, buried in their grasses and hidden in the shade, they have started to produce. Lots of little perennial onions coming up. So yeah, like I said, that's a topic for a future video, but you'll see why in a second here. So these are the ones growing in the back where we found them. The original garden that was here when we got here. Very overgrown. Keep having maples and whatever this little berry producing bush is growing up in here, having to cut them down. Clearly this space wants trees and berries, so that's what we're going to do with it. These onions, not doing so well here. Whereas the ones I moved up front last year are doing fantastic. As soon as these things got any sunlight at all, they started right into growth. So probably going to end up moving a lot more of those perennial onions up here. Why pay for green onions if I can grow them, you know, really? Plus, when these mature, they give me these, let's see if I can find some on the ground here. Fantastic little teeny pearl onion looking things. These ones are, oh, perfect sprouting. I'll put that back on the ground. Get myself some more onions out of that. But when they're fresh and you pick them off, they're great for pickling or just roasting whole with that skin on there. And it's such a morsel of tasty onion goodness. If you're not an onion person, then obviously not for you. But if you are an onion person, these perennial onions are fantastic. Egyptian onions, walking onions, lots of names. But yeah, very much happy with those. Sitting in front of the bunker. Cleared the bunker off this year. We're going to use it for tomatoes, I think. See how that goes. Kind of got a lot more charcoal in here. Anywho, probably going to wrap it up here. I just wanted to say a quick hello, let you all know that things are coming along nicely. The garden season should be upon us pretty darn soon. And yeah, time to start acting on all that. So wonderful. I hope you all have a fantastic garden season yourselves and are keeping safe in all of this chaos. Take care, everybody.